Let's see, going live, and you're live. Hey guys, Frank here, welcome in our studio in the beautiful Emmeloord. And now it's a little bit less hot, so that's a big improvement. Hey, today we're going to talk about something that happens to us a lot. Now, there's always this talk about, we have this beautiful location, we have this beautiful model, we have this stunning styling. So you can't sleep the night before, right? Because it's gonna be so awesome. You have this beautiful light hitting your model, you have this beautiful backdrops and this beautiful castle, and then you arrive and this is one shitty barn. Your model looks like she didn't sleep for a month and she has all these stripes over here because she was wearing clothing that was a little bit too tight. And that whole backdrop that was so beautiful, yeah, no, sorry, it didn't work out at all. And the lighting, yeah, normally the lighting is beautiful here at 5 o'clock. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's because it's now 10 o'clock in the morning. So if that never happened to you, go do something else or something. Or realize that it's going to happen to you soon. Because it happens to all of us. And we call that the element of surprise. Now, it all depends on how smart you are as a photographer if you can solve this element of surprise. So we decided, or actually they decided, I was 100% against it, of course, although in all honesty, I really did like the idea. They said, how about if we make Frank really struggle? Like, if we don't tell him anything, like, you have 3 backdrops and maybe 4, and you don't know what the model's going to wear. You know the model is going to be Nadine. So at that moment, my heart was already racing like, oh, that means that we have a very broad spectrum where it can go, right? If they said you have a model and that model only does portraiture, I go like, oh, I can manage that. But with Nadine, you never know, because Nadine is just as crazy as I am. She thinks about all these weird things. And the thing is, if you have something weird in front of your camera, it can be really cool. But if you photograph it wrong, by giving the wrong accents, giving the wrong composition, giving the wrong backdrops, it can actually start what we in the Netherlands call curse at each other. And I don't know if you know the experience in other languages, but for us, when we call it in the Netherlands, we call it die vloeken met elkaar. It means that they don't go together, they curse with each other. And this is something that you have to be very careful for when you do all your styling. Now, there are certain rules that you can follow, like the 60-30-10 rule, which in essence mean that if you have your setup, you have 60% that's your main color, you have 30% that's an assisting color, and you have 10% that's the accent color. Now, when you look really close at, for example, your favorite TV show, make it Stargate, Star Trek, doesn't really matter. As soon as you start looking at the highly produced series, you will see that they follow that 60-30-10 rule. The bridge will be totally red with red alert. There will be some signs that are a little bit orange, but there will be a very, very strong accent color, can be in the costumes or can be in something else. And as a viewer, that really draws you into that picture. So, do you really need to do 60-30-10? No, of course not. You don't need to, because there's no sense at all doing it all the time. Sometimes it's great to have one very strong color and one accent color. Think about Caravaggio, for example, a very famous painter. Now, if you don't know Caravaggio, let me switch over to the Frank cam. We have something new. This is really awesome. So, I'm going to switch you over to my phone now, and this is actually Caravaggio. Now, we're not going to show you a lot due to copyright constraints, but that's his name, and that's the book. And you see a skull next to it that doesn't have anything to do with Caravaggio, although he did die a horrible death. Although some guys actually may call it a really nice death, but I don't agree. So anyway, so Caravaggio, a very famous painter, and one of the things that he did for me is make the paintings really dark. And then, when it's done, he just had, in my mind, he had this one thing, you look back and you go like, yeah, the painting is totally done. I'm happy, I'm satisfied with this. And then, he took this little bucket of red paint and his magic brush, and he just did some accents. And you immediately go like, ooh. Now it changed from a really great portrait or really great still life to something that's really special and it really jumps off. So that's a 10% accent color, but it can also be 1%. Maybe it's even stronger if you do it in 1. Now, the reason I'm telling you guys this is you don't need to use this all the time, but it has to be in the back of your mind, because that's the part, the same with composition, where you start to recognize stuff. So you look at the picture and you immediately go like, oh, there's something wrong, but I can't put my finger on it. With all the knowledge you have, you can actually put your finger on it and go like, okay, I know what's going wrong, let's change that the next time. And believe me, sometimes it's something really, really small where you go like, I don't know where it went wrong, and then you change just one very slight thing and you go like, ooh, that's nice. And for me, that's also often in the poses. Like, for example, I love triangles in the poses, or round or rectangular stuff, but it has to repeat in the poses of a model. So adding all that together, will you still be surprised by certain acts or certain areas? Yes, of course. The thing is, however, how you solve it. So today what we're going to do is we're going to use our Giotto strobes. So those are portable hybrid strobes, and the reason we're using those is in most situations you can get away with studio strobes, but sometimes you need something that's a little bit smaller that you can put in a side, but you don't want to sacrifice on power or usability, and then the Giotto strobes are absolutely awesome for that. But before that, I want to show you something. Now, next week we are going to a trade show in Belgium called the Photo Days, and we have two great banners I want to show with you guys. So we're going to switch over the camera to my camera again. Oh, and by the way, a lot of you guys asked me about the setup for digital classroom, so let me show you this. This is our YouTube channel. This is our Wirecast, and that's my camera at the moment. And there we have our Wirecast. As you can see, you can already see the set in the preview. Then we have our, what's called RGB mini link to connect everything together. And one Magewell. And the Magewell is actually connected to the iPad. It's a little bit like the hip bone is connected to the center bone, or whatever you guys call it. So let me show you very quickly our team. So here we have Enoweek and Mirte. I don't know where Nadine is. We of course have our studio dog Chewy, and here we have, and I can't see what I'm filming, that's one of the main disadvantages, but here we have our Rogue Flash and our Studio FD banner, and as you can see we have all our brands on there, and we're really looking forward to the show. So I hope to see you guys there. So let me go back to my, it starts Saturday, this Saturday in Belgium, Brussels, and it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to be teaching there several classes a day at our own booth, and after that, or during that actually, we also do a 1 hour talk about styling on a budget. So that's something that we are really enthusiastic about over here, because let's be honest, you only can spend your money once. You need to find stuff that you can do more stuff with, especially in these economic situations. You don't have a lot of money to spend for every week a new prop. So we need props that you can reuse. Yeah, that's the proper term. So on the trade show, we are actually going to probably bring a guitar, but I don't know for sure. It depends on Enoweek and if the RV is totally filled. But I think a guitar as a prop on a trade show, that should be giving me some awesome images. But today, the surprise episode. And you see I'm already stalling a little bit. But not before we're going to show you where you're actually looking at. So let's start that. Awesome. And by the way, that was the new intro. So the second one you saw was the new intro. I did something wrong. I started the first one. So we like to thank, of course, IQ Wire. We're shooting tethered with IQ Wire 10-meter cables. Of course, Cascable. We're using Cascable on the iPad Pro to get all the images in. I'm going to be using the Rogue Flash Bender today, and the magnetic system from Rogue. So we're going to use the gels, probably the dome or the grids, depends. And that's why I use 3 strobes, because I don't know what's waiting for me. And we're going to use the Giotto softbox, the new one. So the one that you can really fold up really flat. And you guys love that one. We're selling a lot of those, and all the responses are 100% positive. And I called it a game changer, and luckily everybody that got it called it a game changer. So we're really happy with that one. And I think that's supposed to be the best selection at the moment. So I have one small softbox with a grid, so I can take the grid out and have a bigger softbox. I have one flash bender with a grid, and the flash bender is really flexible, so I can use it as a bounce card, as a snoot, or as a strip light with grid. And we have the magnetic system. So that means that although it's a surprise episode, with these 3 on 3 different strobes, I can do whatever I want, because I can always change the look of my modifiers. And I think that's part 1. If you're in the studio, you can always grab something else, like a beauty dish or a snoot or whatever you want. But when you're on location, you have to be very careful, what gear do I bring? And the reason I'm choosing these setups is very simple. The GT200 and 250 are strobes you can bring with you in your bag, so you don't need anything else. They're Speedlight replacements. The GT400 with softbox on it is purely a choice over here. You can also do that with the GT250. So in essence, when you take 2 strobes on location, you are more than enough covered, because I'm only going to use 2 today probably. The choice is the modifiers. You have to choose modifiers that are flexible and modifiers that you can literally be creative with. So a softbox with a grid is an always great starting point for your main light source. You can change it from the side, you can change it from the front. If you need more, you can move it to the back so the beam gets bigger. And of course you can take the grid off and make that beam even bigger, or put the grid on, make the beam smaller. So a softbox is very, very flexible. The softbox you can replace for an umbrella. Now, at this point, I didn't choose an umbrella for the very simple reason I don't know what Nadine is wearing. So in other words, I have to make sure that if she wants a full body shot, with an umbrella I can do it, but I have a lot of spill light. With the softbox, with a grid, I can also do a full body by using, for example, my other light as a fill-in, creating a nice spot effect. So these are all these things that go on in my mind, like, okay, what she's wearing, I don't know if it's going to be a full body, I don't know if it's going to be 3/4. So I choose already the modifiers to fit that pattern. Small softbox, flash bender, magnetic system, it all fits into one bag except the softbox. You need a carrying case for that one, but it's really small. If you have a big bag, it will probably fit in it. And of course the 3 strobes. So I think it's time to switch over to the studio. If there are no questions, let me see, there are some people online. Audio is good. Great image quality too. Yeah, sorry that I'm in the image, but hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? It's free. Okay, let me first introduce myself for people that are coming in the first time. My name is Frank Dorhoff, and if you can look online at frankdorhoff.com or photographyworkshops.au, you can find everything, and the photography workshops is just linked via the main site. So if you go to the main site, you can find everything you want about me. Not everything, of course, but most of the things. Okay, let's go to the studio, and that means that I'm getting nervous now, and I have to give over the capable hands, I hope, of Enoweek. So, Enoweek, are you ready? I already switched to picture-in-picture.
I'm doing it for 9 years, so if I'm not ready yet, I will never be ready.
Don't push me. Okay, great. Oh, I'm really looking forward to this. So, Nadine, where are you? She's hiding. Oh, God. Okay. Well, the first thing you see, am I in the frame? Okay. The first thing that you see is you see a lot of layers. You see something that, for me, gives it a little bit of a softer pastel-like tinge. I love the 2 braids hair. I don't feel a lot for doing full body. To be honest, I think if we cut it off like in the middle, that can give you the intention that the hairs actually grow longer than they are, because our mind actually fills in stuff. And this is also one of the reasons why I love to shoot in landscape instead of in portrait. Our mind actually fills in those blanks. And it will make sure that we experience something like we would normally experience it in real life. So if you cut off somebody's head from the top, our mind knows that, hey, there's a lot of stuff up there. So when I look at this, I think for the backdrop, an easy choice would be the top one, the 3-dimensional one, because it fits a little bit with color. Now, you remember what I told you guys about color. You want that 60-30-10 in your back of your mind. So the easiest choice would be that top one. But when I look at her clothing, there's nothing that will give me that 10 in that point. It's like pastel on the back, pastel in the front. Doesn't really work that way. So I think the first one we can take out. So let's take the first one out. Oh, I think we're going to go for that one actually. Then we have the second one. And in all honesty, I really like this. This gives me a lot of contrast, in all honesty. So it really pops out. So when I lower this one, ooh, this looks really nice. You see this? It's really getting that contrast in. On the other hand, when I look at it, I see all these nature-like tints that come into my mind. A little bit softer, a little bit more earthy. Although it's pinkish, somehow earth just rings in my mind. So I'm going to actually go for the back one. Keep pressing the button, that helps. Oh, look at this. And now what you immediately see is, due to the chaotic backdrop with all those flowers, I really get a really nice sense of that model. But now I want to make her jump out, and this is what we do with contrast. Now, if you have contrast in your image, you will always make something jump out if you use it contrast front or contrast back. It doesn't really matter. If you do a silhouette, the model will jump out. If you make a dark backdrop with just a little bit of light behind her, the model will jump out. And that's the cool thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our softbox, our smaller softbox. It's on the GT400 with that small Giotto softbox. And we're going to place it. Let's do a little bit from here. I'm going to turn it on. Go up. There we go. Oops. One day I need new boom stands. Awesome. Now, of course, you can just start shooting, but that's something that we don't do in our studio. We want to make sure that we hit that light correctly. So it means that we use a light meter. Now, light meters are incredibly simple tools. You just hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit, you fire the strobe, and you're done. Most of the time. So let's take the remote control off the camera. Or just leave it on for now. Let me turn off the modeling lights. Okay, Anouk? Anouk?
Yeah?
Can you come, please? Now. When I say yes, just press that one.
Okay. Why don't you take it off?
One moment.
Is it still on the other
No, it shouldn't be.
trigger?
Oh, wait a minute. I have it on the wrong channel. That's why. Just make sure you're always on the right channel, guys. And in this case, let me switch this over very quickly. Okay, there we go. So. Hey, that's weird. Okay, let's try something. Okay, let's switch this over to normal metering mode. There we go. Okay. I know what the problem is. It doesn't fire automatically when it's on the camera. So sorry for that. It's protection. In this case, it's irritating, but it's the way it should work. Okay, there we go. Let's take this meter. Okay, hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit, press the button and fire the strobe. We get a meter reading of 4.0. That actually means that when I set my camera for 4.0 ISO 100, I will have a properly exposed image. Let's try that again to make sure. Yep, f4. Nice. So let's start with f4. Let's do the trigger on the camera again. There we go. Okay, ISO 100. F4. There we go. Okay, let's start with a simple portrait. Let's see what happens. I always start with a simple portrait to make sure that everything comes in, that we actually know that everything is working. And as you can see here, that's why we do it, because sometimes when you turn on your camera and off, don't laugh in a week. It's not funny.
It's one of those days.
Yeah, it's absolutely not. Okay, there we go. That's why we always start with one test shot. There we go. Okay, so now as you can see from the side, we have this really nice accent, but it's a little bit dark on the other side. But I do like it. It really jumps out of the backdrop, but it's all a little bit moody, a little bit too dark for my taste. So the first thing I want to do is I want to open up the backdrop. Now, of course, you can use a second strobe for that, but hey, if you only have two strobes and you use a second strobe for the backdrop, that means that you can't use an accent light anymore. So we want to do something that's a little bit smarter. We actually want to feather the light. So I'm going to place this a little bit more to the side of my model and actually going to aim it towards the backdrop. There we go. We're going to raise the output of the strobe just a little bit for the sake of the video. I'm not gonna remeter at the moment. And let me see. There we go. So let's go for A, and let's just add a little bit of power. And if I'm correct, there should be a little bit more light now on the backdrop, and the model should be a little bit more contrasty. There we go. So now we have that light on our backdrop, and our model is a little bit more contrasty, but not a lot. And this is because we're using that softbox. Now, if you would be using a strip light, one of my other favorite modifiers, and I turn it, that will actually take away light from my model. And that's why in setups where I don't know exactly what I'm going to find, I'm not going to use strip lights as our main light source, because I can still use my softbox as a strip light by moving it away from my model, actually aiming it towards this side. So I take all the light away from the backdrop and only a little bit of light on my model, mimicking a strip light. I can place it straight on my model like we started, or I can feather it away just a little bit more, and in that way also light my backdrop. The only problem is, I think the sides are a little bit too dark, and with a little bit I mean a whole lot too dark. I don't like this at all. So, and this is where my other secret weapon comes in, and that's the flash bender. So we're going to use the flash bender from the side. I'm going to use the pistol grip to place it inside. There we go. Going to turn it on, and if I'm correct, this is my channel B. Great. So it's indeed one of those days where everything is set up from the previous setup. There we go. Okay. Channel B. Awesome. Great. Okay. I'm going to place it a little bit to the back and trying to aim it towards my model. So this is my channel B. And for now, let's put channel B so you guys can see what it does on full power. So let's go for mode, full power on channel B. Okay, I'm going to shoot from a lower angle. There you go. So as you can see, that backlight really gives me a lot of light, and that's way too much. This is just overpowering everything. But this is where the part comes in of cooking with light. And if you saw more of the digital classrooms, you know I always use that term. You don't meter that light, you cook it. You look at what do I like, how do I like it, and then you just adjust it. So in this case, the main light we know is okay. The backlight I want really subtle. So let's go to 1/4. Let's move a little bit more here. So we have a little bit more room. There we go. So now we have this really nice accent lighting. It looks really nice and soft. For me, a little bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that light, move it a little bit forward. So it captures a little bit more of my model. I'm going to take this one and move it just a little bit further away to have some spread. Still going to aim it slightly at our backdrop, but a little bit less. There we go. And yes, because I moved that light, I'm going to raise it just 1/3 of a stop. There we go. Zoom in on my model. And there we go. And now we have that nice accent lighting. We have nice light on the backdrop. I actually think the accent lighting is still too strong. So let's go down. Let's go for a 16th. That's really low. That's nice. Now I love it. Okay, so I think now it's time to actually start thinking about composition. Now, I don't really like portrait photos. But in some cases, you really think, maybe this should be a portrait. So in this case, I think this should be a portrait photo. So I'm going to sit down. And I'm going to try to do a little bit more justice to the styling by shooting it in portrait. But if the model looks straight at me, as you can see here, we have these really nasty shadows on our face. As soon as he starts looking towards the light, look at this. So much better. Oh, that's nice. Keep it that way. That's nice. Keep it that way. Awesome. You can still do some portraits and some really nice composition tricks. Nice. Love it. Great. But of course, you can also walk around your model and create something that's a little bit more interesting. So for example, let the model look down and try to get some light from behind. Like this. But now when I look at that image, I go like, you know, it doesn't really give me a vibe. It doesn't give me that mood. But remember that first image that was so overpowered? Let's go back. Let's go to a fourth. So I'm really overpowering the backlight. Gonna go slightly lower. I'm gonna try to just crop that light out slightly. There we go. Maybe from a little bit higher. Ooh, that's nice. I really like this. And if you hear Chewy, the mailman is coming, and Chewy doesn't like the mailman. The mailman does like Chewy, but it's not mutual, as you can hear probably. So from that side, you get a totally different vibe, as you can see. And this is the cool thing. Walk around your model to get all these different looks. Now, of course, you see the background of our studio, which isn't 100% attractive, but, and this is why we actually also placed here a removable backdrop, the clicky. It's our new backdrop. So let's pick that one up and let's make sure that it looks nice. And these are all these little things. If you don't know what's going to happen, make sure that you have it next to you. Oops, that was my mic. Ooh, one moment. Huh? It's really one of those days. But, hey, as long as we can solve it like this and we don't panic. It's called surprises, right? Well, we have all kinds of surprises. Microphones that get tear off, and I hope my model doesn't explode before the end of the show, but you never know. Okay, there we go. Okay, just look down just a little bit. So now we have a nicer backdrop. Ooh, I really like this. Cool. Slightly lower angle maybe. The only problem with the lower angle, as you can see here, you don't see the plumes very nicely because of course we have that light on the back, but I still think in Photoshop, especially now with AI, we can really make something work out of it, or turn off the studio lighting. Annemiek, can you turn off the studio lighting?
The small ones?
Yeah? So we have those two lights on the top, as you can see, and they are annoying me a little bit. So we're gonna turn the lights off. It's, you know, that's the cool thing about live shows. You never know what you're gonna get. It's like life, like a box of chocolates. There we go. And by turning those lights off, I create a little bit more darkness in the top, which makes it probably a little bit easier to clone that out. Now I don't want my light in there, so I'm gonna crop that one out too. So I'm gonna move a little bit more here to create a lens flare. So I do need that light, but not as close to my model as before. There we go, look at this. Nice, and now maybe one from really high up. Wow. That's nice. Awesome. Now look straight into the light source, please. Cool. Nice. And as you can see, I'm moving more and more towards the side because I like the flatter light quality. But if you don't and you think like, hey, I want to go for that high contrast look, just move yourself. Very simple, just move here and now you have that contrast look. Move a little bit that way if you want. There we go, perfect. Nice. And of course, if you're really into high contrast, nobody stops you from going here and shooting straight into the light source. The only problem is the light source B. So turn that one off. And you can have some really nice high contrast lighting from this side. There we go, look a little bit towards the light. There we go, ooh, this is gonna be awesome. There we go. Okay, so Nadine is gonna change for the next set, and I'm gonna show you very quickly with those images what you can do in Lightroom. Don't expect too much, but we're going to try to do a little bit of editing very quickly. But of course, before that, we need a little bit of time to reset everything and build up. So we're going to show you a little promo for the Speedlights, and we're going to tell you something really cool after that. Hey guys, Frank here, and we have a brand new tutorial for you guys, and it's called, well, you already see it in front of me, Speedlight Magic. And we all know those little strobes, right? But did you know that those strobes are incredibly creative, that you can do almost anything you want with them? Well, this is the video if you want to know more about the Speedlights. We're going to talk about the techniques like high-speed sync, first curtain sync, second curtain sync. We're going to talk about fighting daylight, how to mix strobe, what is flash exposure compensation, what is zooming, and a lot more. But we're also going to talk about stuff that's really important for your workflow. What about the perfect remote controls? How about mounting those strobes on a stand? What is a boom stand? Why do you want to use it? And of course, what are my favorite modifiers? Well, if you think that's it, you're totally wrong. We also have a whole segment where we go into the studio with our model Nadine and we're going to talk about lighting setups, techniques behind those lighting setups, but most of all, how to create stunning images with only 2 Speedlights. Does that sound interesting to you guys? It sure does to me. So join us on Speedlight Magic, available now. And go. Okay, so as promised, I want to show you some of the images and especially where I look for. Now, I have to be honest with you guys, this is a live broadcast. Now, normally things go wrong during a live broadcast, but we never had 3 things in a row go wrong. So you actually have a unique opportunity to learn. Because it can go wrong for everybody, guys. And you can panic. The only thing is, if somebody fails with taking an image, that's the point where you can really blame somebody. Like, hey, you took an image wrong, or you don't know how a light meter works, or you start messing around and you can't get your lighting right. That's the part where you can really blame somebody. But always remember, when your hardware fails, of course you can blame a pro, like, hey, you should bring a backup. But if you can solve it, don't panic, guys. And if somebody blames you for that, that's their problem, and I think it happens to everybody. I remember that there was this interview with Def Leppard a few years ago, and of course we're all big Queen fans, right? Who isn't? And there was this one moment where they asked him, like, didn't it freak you out that Brian May was looking at you playing guitar on a stage? And he said, how do you mean? I said, well, didn't it freak you out that if Brian May was walking, looking, that you stepped on your cable and yanked your cable out, or that you fell on your face? He said, oh, I don't care about that. The only thing I was so scared of is if I missed a chord. And then the interviewer just looked at him and went like, why are you afraid that you miss a chord and not that you step on your cable? He said, because if I step on my cable once, it happened to him at least 10 times. So he knows what happens. And that's for you as a photographer, especially when you are in a surprise situation. You can't always make your best images. The only thing you can do is make sure that you get the images that your client wants. Maybe those are not the best images. Maybe those are not the images where you go like, wow, this is awesome. Maybe it's just an images where you go like, okay, you got the character. And that's great, because then next time you can really blow them away. Okay, let's select some images and let's just show you what we can do in Lightroom. Now, as you know, I absolutely love Adobe and I love their products, and Lightroom is without a doubt my favorite go-to place, especially with the new Lightroom. I will switch over to another camera, by the way, that you guys can see me too. It's a little bit nicer, I think. So the thing about Lightroom, what I really like is that Lightroom is constantly evolving. When you see the new Lightroom, by the way, not the Lightroom Classic, but the new Lightroom, you will also find in the top, you will find an option called local. So you don't have to go online anymore for Lightroom. You can also use a local adjustment, oh, sorry, local storage, which for me is a game changer, really. Okay, so let's switch back to the full screen and let's just go through the images. Now, the first thing I always do is I will select the images that I really don't like. So I will press X for everything that I don't like. But you don't have to press X, you can actually swipe down. So that's the really interesting part. And a week you can go. Just, we have another guy at the door, so I don't know why. It's always when we do live broadcasts. So let's see, I don't like that one, I don't like that one. And I'm really picky with my shots. I think we have so many great shots, especially with Nadine, that you can be really picky about what you like and what you don't like. If something is not 100% wow, I will save it, of course, but if it's not 100% wow, I already know I'm not going to do anything with it. Because Nadine is such an awesome model that we have so many images that are wow. So I really like this. This is, for me, I don't know. We have to find it. Here you see the eyes, don't like that, so take that out. Too much junk in the back, so take that out. I do think we can save this one. This one I like a lot better. This one I don't like the eyes. I do like this. It's a little bit dark in the eyes. Ooh, this one, immediately. This one jumps out at me like, wow, look at me. And this one, I don't like the hand. The hand is, for me, always a part where you have to be careful for. And let me switch back again so you guys can see me. A camera doesn't see depth. A camera only sees stuff that's closer as bigger and what's further away as smaller. For example, this camera has a pretty wide angle. As I put my finger here, you can see that it looks like a really big finger. But it isn't. Look, it's a really small finger. But if I place it, look at how big my finger is. Look how small. And that's what the camera does. Sorry to make it so childish, but that's actually what a camera does. Now, the more you use a wide angle means that the more you get that effect. So with a wide angle, your finger will look huge. On a tele lens, or in other words, a longer lens, let me put it that way, your finger will look more normal. We call that the compression of the scene. Now, a lot of people talk about, hey, 50mm is about how we see the world. And a lot of people confuse this with the angle of view. And that's actually wrong, because we see the world dynamically. We can zoom in with our eyes. For example, I'm now zooming in to maybe 400mm, and now I'm zooming back to maybe 16mm to see everything around me. Now I'm zooming to 50mm to see exactly what's going on here. And we do this all the time with our eyes. Now, what that 50mm mimics a little bit is how we see and perceive depth of field. Now, when with a 50mm you hold your hand like this, or closer or further away, it mimics a little bit like how we see the world with our depth of field. So it looks a little bit more normal. This is why I hardly ever use a 50mm lens with portraiture, because I like to play with compression to make everything a little bit more tight, but I also love to work with that extended range. So in other words, making something bigger, like pointing towards a camera and making that one of the parts of our photo. So more creative. It doesn't mean that I don't use that 50mm. And this is also why when on a lot of forums people ask like, hey, what's your favorite portrait lens? You can't really say. A lot of people say, hey, it's a fixed 85. You can never do a wide angle effect with that. Some people say, hey, it's a fixed 50. You can never really zoom into a model like that. Some people say, hey, it's a 35, although I never read that, to be honest. But at that point, you can't do compression. My favorite lens, and that's also what you see a lot during my workshops and during the digital broadcasts, is that we use the 24-70, so Sony 24-70. And that's just an awesome range. You have the 24 for that really wide angle shots, which I use sometimes, and you have the 70 for that full compression, and you have the 50 to make everything look normal. So let's go through the images and let me see what I can do very quickly in Lightroom. And if there are any questions, of course, feel free to ask them in the chat. So the hand here is a little bit too big. I think she looks a little bit scared here, but I do like that one. I like. No, I don't like the part here. It looks a little bit weird, like she has a belly, which she doesn't. A little bit too dark for my taste, but I do like it. Oh, I really like that one, really dark and moody. These are the high contrast shots. I always love those, especially, for example, something like this. So give that 5 stars. Oh, that one is awesome. Let me see if I nailed the focus there. Ha, focus is on the second eye. That's a shame. But we have topaz for that, so we're going to do that later on. Let's not delete that one. There we go. Okay, so we have our selection, so now we can actually filter on that selection. So let's filter on our 5 stars. As you can see here, I didn't get the focus right, and that's why we shoot a few. This one is perfect, so we can also use this one. Now the first thing, of course, what I want to do is I want to take out that softbox over there, but maybe you don't, maybe you do. You can just very simply do that like this. And if it's correct, it will make a mess out of it. Look at that. Yeah, that's awesome, right? No, it's not. You can also use the clone tool, I think in this case that's a little bit better, but we have a lot of lens flare here. So let's do that a little bit like this and just pull that clone tool all the way to the bottom. And as you can see here, it's far from perfect, but hey, that's what we have to work with for the moment, unless you go into Photoshop. Now, of course, you can do a select subject. Let me see if we can make it a little bit better then. There we go. Then invert that selection. There we go. And then just bump up the contrast and lower the exposure. There you go. So now we have, I could have done that right away probably, but hey, this works too. Okay, now lighting. For this one, I like a lot of contrast, but not too much. So I'm actually going negative. Do you see that? So I say I want to add contrast and I go negative. Just lower the highlights or raise the highlights. Maybe a little bit of shadow detail. No, not too much. There we go. And of course, I really think this would be awesome in black and white. Oh, look at that, what a difference. Now let's go for the black and white mix and let's just start playing with the red channel just for now, because we know that's a lot around the lips and the skin. That's nice. Let's go for orange because it's really connected to it. As you can see here, we can really make the contrasty or less. Yellow, and now we're going into the more in the earrings, as you can see here. And because he was wearing something a little bit purplish, we could have success with these colors. There we go. Nice. Okay, composition-wise, I think it's a little bit too much to the sides. So what I would do, I would actually in Photoshop would just create a slightly tighter crop, but I wouldn't cut off anything on the bottom. So this is why I just show you how it would look. I would actually do it more like this. So I would unlock this. I would literally just go here and then just extend this area. In Lightroom that's still not possible, but then in Photoshop I would extend that area to the left to create it nice and flowing in the image. You can also make it square, of course, as you can see here. Okay, here's the color one. Now what I will do without any doubt in Photoshop is actually go into Boris FX and add a little bit of extra lens flare there if needed. And of course we're gonna remove that. Now I'm still very curious about why it didn't remove it correctly, because normally I have great success with this, so I don't really know why. So let's give it another, there we go, that's a lot better. That's what I want to say. Normally remove works really well in Lightroom. There we go, that's much better. Okay, and now of course you can just go for example, presets. And this is one of the things that I always do in Lightroom. I have presets available. And you can actually buy those presets in our web shop. We have 116 presets, imagine that, wow. And if you go to our web shop, you can of course also find there everything from IQ Wire, Rogue, click backdrops and tutorials. And also the preset packs. Now, I strongly believe that preset packs should be your starting point. So we actually only charge, I believe, 15 euros or 10 euros for our preset packs. Don't spend any more. Like you see preset packs from 200 euros. That's just insane. It's just a preset, you know. You can make them yourself, but it saves so much time. Look at this. This looks amazing. Wow. Frank, you did well. Wow. And as you can see, all these presets just look totally different and give you a different vibe. So what I'm looking now for is purely, I know these presets are right, I'm just looking for the vibe. And in all honesty, I think I go for a little bit more fairy tale. So I think this one looks absolutely nice. But this one I love way more, that softer look. And I think we're going to do this one. So you're just going to press done. And now what you have to do with all your presets, now you have to make it your own. Because I can't do what you like. I can only do what I like, and you should actually enhance those presets to your taste. Maybe you like it a little bit less, maybe a little bit more aggressive. I love texture and clarity, but not in model shots, so I'm going to take that out. Dehaze. Oh, I did like a little bit of dehaze in there. And of course vignetting you can add, but I don't think vignetting here really helps. I think this will help great. Let me see. Ooh, that looks nice. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Is Nadine already ready for the next shot? Because then we're going to go back to, snap back to reality, yes. That's weird. Okay, let's go back to Cascable. Of course, it now lost my connection to the camera, but we're going to fix that in a moment. Okay, we're going to set everything up and we're going to be back in 2 minutes. Yes, and BenQ really creates great monitors. Now recently we did a review about a new SW272U, I believe, right?
Yes.
I always mess up those numbers. And one of the things that frustrates the heck out of me, and probably you know the problem, right? Let me switch over to my frame cam again. And I'm going to show you something, and it really annoys the living daylights out of me. And that's reflections. This is the iPad. As you can see here, you see all those reflections, right? And now it's not that bad, but look at the BenQ monitors. And this is a really old one. And this is a really old one. But you can see that there's already a different kind of glare. And what they did with the newer ones is they created a totally new coating, and it just looks absolutely amazing. We did a really small video test where we used a strobe from our smartphone and just straight at the monitor. And when we did it with the previous generation, you already saw that when I do it on my MacBook Pro, let me put it that way, you see this big shiny blob of light, and that's just frustrating. You can't edit with that. Then you do it on the iPad Pro, and that's a little bit better, but you still see this annoying blob. And then you do it on an older BenQ monitor, and you see that it isn't a blob, but it's something, especially, and normally you don't hold your phone up to your monitor with a strobe, right? That's insane. But there are many situations where you have a little bit of backlight behind you, or for example, you're editing in an office building where the sun comes a little bit through. Now, of course, you can use a hood on your monitor, but the coating really helps by taking away that shine. So I highly recommend checking out that video, and Anouk will leave a link in the comments below about the video. And for you guys, and I don't know, can I say that during Digital Classroom about the discount code? Yeah, probably. We have a 10% discount code for all European customers, but we don't have a lot of those codes. So if you are interested in a new BenQ monitor, just email me and you will get a discount code for 10%. And that's only for the European customers. So BenQ monitors, if you need a new one, just email me and we'll get you the discount code. We don't have a lot of them, so be quick. Okay, next setup. Can I go home?
Why?
I'm scared.
Is it too sexy?
The next setup, ladies and gentlemen, let me switch over to the cameras for you guys, is this.
Maybe the high cam.
Let's switch to the high cam or switch to the other cam. Yeah. Mirte, can you zoom in on our model a little bit? Because he's in, there we go. Look at this. Wow. Nadine. I love it. It's red. What's not to like about red? My goodness. It is red. Wow. Awesome. Okay, so anyway, to say about, to mimic one of my favorite shows at the moment, I'm listening. And if you know which show that is, you can win a discount code for one of my tutorials. I'm listening. So if you know which show that is, email me and you will get a 50% discount code on one of my tutorials. How about that?
Wow.
But we only select a few. So if you know, I'm listening, email me. So anyway, this setup. Now the first thing that strikes me is that it's red, right? It's bright red. The other thing that strikes me is all the different facets of that show, how do you call it? English is not my native language. No, facetten. All the different details. There we go. And that's the thing of really working nicely with styling and really working nicely with how to light your model. So we want to make sure that all those details jump out, but also the different kinds of fabric. We want to make sure that if something is soft, it looks soft. If something is harsher, it looks harsher. Now when I look at the clothing like this, I think the boots are really harsh. So what I want to do is I think I'm going to use a lens flare from the back with a red gel, giving a really nice oomph. And then on the front we're going to use that same softbox, but I'm going to aim it slightly from a more distant and maybe aim it a little bit down to create something like a vignette on the back. So let's see, we have some images, some questions in. André van der Molen, is het een idee om een limited... Ah, okay. Yes, André, you are absolutely right. I saw it when we did the video. The video is too loud compared to our spoken word. So we will lower the volume of the videos the next time. So I'm very sorry for that. We do have a limiter on, but only when I speak. So that's a little bit of a problem because the video is routed through the computer. So, but well caught. Another thing that I have to announce, by the way, is every year there is this moment where we all think about, should I buy it or should I not? And I'm not talking about Black Friday, I'm not talking about the Amazon Prime days, I'm talking about something where the answer is always yes. And that's this. Yeah, one moment, let me fix something. I didn't add any audio source to that one. So let me do that very quickly. Let's add some audio, 1, 2, 3, there we go. Okay, let's go back to that one. Okay, so the 5-day deal, every year there is this 5-day deal and we're going to participate in it actually with one of my videos for the Speedlights and one of my books also about Speedlights. And at the moment, only for the American visitors, there is this bundle giveaway and we will leave a link in the comments below and we will do that tonight. And if you follow that link, you can actually participate in the giveaway. Now, watch our social media if you think, hey, Frank is a really nice guy, I love what he's doing and I would love to support him. Just watch for our social media where we share the link for the 5-day deal. We're going to do that probably this weekend. And then if you order from our link, you actually also support our channel. So we really appreciate that. Okay, let's go for our shot in the studio. So let's switch over the cameras. And then I am ready for this. Oh my, this is going to be interesting. And I already think I'm going to do a two-parter with this one. So we're going to do it against another backdrop, and we're going to do it against another backdrop. I have two backdrops in mind. Oeh, spannend, hè? Okay, let me first find my remote control. And let's hope that we don't have any more visitors. We always say you're welcome in our studio, but we don't mean it like that. Not literally every time during live shows. I love this backdrop for this. And you can probably see why, because I want to shoot to the floor. I want to shoot the floor and my model. And this backdrop just really nicely floats into the floor. I love the colors, but most of all, I just love the combination of colors. That red contrasting with the blue in the backdrop. It's actually a little bit of sea foam, or green foam, I believe. I just love that combination. So let me change the lighting for now. And normally, of course, you only need 2 strobes for a digital class. Is there red on? Yes. Ooh, that's lucky. We always use red or blue. And in this case, we still have red on. And otherwise, I would have just changed it for blue. So let's move this one here. So the flash bender is now out. Let's... Huh?
Did you turn it off?
Yes. Of course. Of course. I'm not a horse.
Did you check the channel as well?
Ja, Noik. Of course. Okay. Now, because this is my color, I call it C from color, or C from round, although I don't know why C is in round. Maybe round, no. Circular, that should be. Okay, let's change this lighting to more to the front. Let's see how we're going to do that. Like this. So just want to be able to shoot through. I think this will be awesome like this. There we go. Yes, nice. Okay, now for time's sake, I'm not going to meter at the moment. I'm going to first focus purely on the model. So I'm not going to show the whole boots at the moment. We're going to do that later. I just want to make sure that she jumps out from the backdrop the way that I want it. And that actually happens. I absolutely love this. But as you can see here, the dark on the side, it's a little bit too dark. So we don't want that. So let me see on the iPad if that's the same way over there. No, the iPad is better. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to use that backlighting, so the strobe here, and that's our C channel, and we're going to place that a little bit behind our model, aiming towards the camera. So not towards my model, this is straight towards the model. We're actually going to aim it slightly away from the model, more towards the camera, and that means that the camera will get a lot more light than the model. And that means that we can probably get some lens flaring. The first thing we have to do to get lens flare, of course, is take off our sun hood. Because the sun hood is preparing, or is designed to prevent lens flare. And in this case, we want lens flare. Another thing that I use is a magnetic filter called the KNF Concept Black Diffusion Filter. And that just creates a very, very nice, subtle lens flare. Okay, so let's turn on channel C also. Let's do that on, let's go for 4th or an 8th power. I think that's more than enough. There we go. And now what you can see is a very subtle red light from the back, mimicking a little bit of those old Janet Jackson videos. And I think that the styling really looks like it. And I think this already looks really nice, but I want to add a little bit more light on the back. So let's go for a 4th. So we're going to add, now let's go for half. Let's add 2 extra stops. 1 to go. There we go. So now we have this really, really nice light. Annemiek, what's going on?
Batteries are down.
From which cameras?
From 2.
Okay, just leave it. Just focus on one camera. Okay, so now we want to make sure that we also shoot some full bodies. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the model fits in well. But when I do that from my standing position, look at this, it will look a little bit weird. So it will actually make my model look a little bit small. And I don't want my model to look small. I want my models to look majestic. I want my models to look big and tall and great and powerful. And this just looks nothing like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down on the floor, not really on the floor, but on this chair, aim my camera up. I'm going to do the same shot. And now, as you can see, the model looks really nice. It's a totally different look. The only problem is the camera doesn't see depth, so that means that that foot is not doing what I want it to do. So I want my model to turn a little bit towards the light, like this, and then do the same thing again. Are you ready? Ooh, there we go. That's nice. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, go. And 1, 2, 3, go. As you can see here, we have this really nice flow in the image. But remember what I told you guys about wide angles? Yes, let's try a wide angle with this. So let's go here, let's sit on the floor. And of course, we have to be careful with everything that fits in the screen. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, go. Oh, that's nice. Look towards the light while doing that. Okay, now kick me. Not really. 1, 2, 3, go. A little bit lower. Scares me. 1, 2, 3, go. Nice. And of course, we can do the same thing from a higher angle. Because why should we do everything from a low angle if high angles are also an option? And this gives you such a weird look. And again, zoom in on your model. Oh, that's nice. Keep it that way. And create something really different. As you can see here, by using those lines down, you create something that's totally different from what you're used to. Normally when you look at something like this, it's always from the bottom up or eyes perspective. And this just gives me something else. But I told you about doing a two-pointer. Yes. Let's switch some stuff over. Let's create something totally different. Let's take this one out. And let's create something a little bit more harsh. Let's take this one. Nadine, als je even naar voren kan. There we go. Now this is our new clicky from Click Backdrops. And the thing about the clicky is sometimes when you're on location, you want something that's great, but not large. You want to do no concession in quality, but you don't want to bring your whole backdrop. Like we normally on location, believe it or not, we bring that whole backdrop system. So we bring 3 backdrops, we bring 3 motors, 2 stands, and well, that works like a charm. But sometimes you don't have that room. The clicky can fit in almost every car. It only uses 1 stand, and you can choose between vinyl and Pro Fabric. And especially the Pro Fabric is my absolute favorite. So let's take my flash bender, just for fun, and show you what you can do with only 1 light and an awesome backdrop and a great model. Oh, one of those days. Okay, let's turn this one on. And the red one, I think we're going to use the red one too in a moment. So let me just move that to the front. I don't know for sure what I'm going to do with it. I think something creative. But we'll see. Okay. This is our B channel. From the B from Flash Bender. Bender. Correct, yes. I have to remember the B channel and the C channel and the A channel. So. Okay. Now go up a little bit more. There we go. Now what I want to do is I want to create a light beam that actually goes over the model to the backdrop and then just wraps around back. And with a flash bender, by angle it correctly, I can actually do exactly what I want. Believe it or not. Okay, it's on full power. For time's sake, I'm not going to meter, although probably for time's sake I should meter. But hey. Yeah, it's insane, but it's true. And of course you can also use ATTL, but I don't really like ATTL. Okay, let me see. Okay, that's way too much, of course. So let's go down. The flash bender really gives you a lot of light output. There we go. This is on 1/16th power, f4, so we're going to go to 5.6. Yeah, light meter would have been faster, especially now. So let's go up in power. Oh, I hate this. Okay, this looks nice. So I really like that harsh look on her face. I really like everything about this shot. And the sides are dark, and I do this on purpose because the sides, or the backdrop, isn't that white. So by making the backdrop fall back into darkness, you don't have to Photoshop anything. It's a natural vignette. And that's what I love about this clicky. Let me place the model a little bit more in the middle. So. And I didn't want to change the lighting because I really like the lighting. Shoot from a really low perspective. Oh, this is awesome. Now look at this. This really gives some power to the shot, and I love the backdrop here. But again, it's a little bit too dark in the shadows. But hey, we have that red light, right? And one of the things that I love about the old Star Trek series is what I sometimes called the Kirk effect. Now, what is the Kirk effect? Of course, it's the womanizer of Star Trek, but there's also something else. When you really look well at those the original series, you can sometimes see that when Kirk is in the image, and also some of the other players, they actually have this little line of light over their faces, and everything else is a little bit darker. Now, imagine this. If they do it nowadays, they mess it up. And those days, it was a low-budget series, and they just have one of the most amazing light qualities. Think about Harcourt, George Horrell. They use the same technique. And what is the technique I mean? Light in light. You light the scene normally, and then you add one light that's a little bit brighter. And sometimes you leave that light a little bit brighter, like Harcourt does. It gives that nice accents. And sometimes you lower all the lights except that one light. And that's what we're going to do now. So when I look at this shot, I get really excited, and I go like, oh, I love that red, but I don't see anything of it yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a red strobe on my model from my position. Yeah, the only problem is, and that's a real huge big problem, is that I'm using hard light. So in other words, if I turn this around, there's no modification here. So that means that I will get shadows. I want indirect light. And now we have another accessory that's really important for this. And we call this our magnetic dome. Let me first take a sip of water. Sure. This is the hard stuff, Diet Coke. It's a magnetic system, so we just click it on, but just to show you guys what we have here. We have our gel holder, we have a red gel, and then we have our magnetic dome. And it all just clicks together really nice and easy. As you can see here, this is the gel. And one of the things you have to be careful for with gels is actually, Anne, can you give me my phone? And can you switch over to the Frank Dorov phone? Yeah, switch over. You have to be careful for that. Always when you buy gels, you see how many stops are lost by using that gel. And as you can see here, Rogue does it really well. And this is important because you have to know how much saturation that gel will give you. Yeah. Okay, so now it's sharp.
Apple red, and F stop loss is
3. Awesome. Okay, so now you can switch back to the normal camera again. Okay, cool. Now you might think like, hey, those are really bad gels. Why should I use gels that take away 3 stops? Frank, come on. There are gels on the market that only take away 1 stop. Okay, yes, you are 100% right. There's only one thing. When you look at how colors work, we have 3 coordinates, X, Y, and the big Y, hue, saturation, and luminance. And I've told you this many times. When you also look at how printers work, we have cyan, magenta, yellow, and K. And a lot of people think that K is black. It's not. It is in the printer, but it's actually key. So you have cyan, magenta, yellow, and key. Now key in the printer is used with black. And that means that if you use more black in a color, the color becomes darker and more saturated. Yes? So if I take a gel that only takes away 2 stops of light, I never get that saturated red. If I take a gel that only takes away 1 stop of light, you end up with something that looks a little bit like a wimpy orange. It doesn't really look nice. And then when you start using these gels, yes, you need powerful strobes, but hey, we have powerful strobes, but they will really give you those deep saturated colors. And the main advantage of this is that I don't have to think about shadows that much when I use the omnidirectional dome. Just look at this. I can only aim it at my model, but now I will actually aim it up. let me see, this is my channel C. And I will leave it on half stop. Why not? Half power. And again, we're going to cook with light, right? We're going to see what we like. And if we like it, we do it. If we don't, we take it down. Okay, we can add a little bit more. There we go. So now we are actually adding a little bit of red to our image, as you can see here, but I don't see any double shadows. And that's the nice thing about an omnidirectional dome. You don't see those shadows, but you can get all the results. In all honesty, when I look at this, I go like, I don't know. That one is already on full power. The other one is now on 1/8 power, but I need more red. How do I achieve this? Very, very simple. You go to your B channel, that's our main light source, and we go not to 1/4, or sorry, 1/16, but we go to 1/32. So that means I'm lowering my light on my main light with 2 full stops. That means I'm shooting on 5.6, f4, so I should go to 2.8. What I'm actually doing now is I'm actually turning that one 2 stops up. By lowering the other one 2 stops and leaving that one the same, I'm actually raising that one 2 stops. There's always a trick when you run out of power. There we go. But now, in all honesty, this is too much. This is way too much. So we do the same thing. We go for 1/16 power, and we're going to shoot on f4. Oh, this is nice. This is what I like. And as you can see, you don't have to show the whole boots. Just by showing a little bit, it's already daring enough. Okay, now let's say that I really like those shots. This one is a little bit too dark, so can you look a little bit more up? Oh, nice. Love it. Don't be too enthusiastic, of course. Nice. But let's say that you go like, yeah, maybe, but I want more special effects. I really like lens flares, Frank, but I don't like that red in your image. I want it different. And you go like, difficult client, but you know, we love difficult clients. Because difficult clients make the surprise party nicer. Right? So our client goes like, I love the red, but not in the picture. And you're like, okay, what do you mean? And sometimes the client will go like, yeah, I love the vibe, but you know, the colors, they just throw me off. And you go like, okay, let's try this. Maybe you like this more. So you want the red in, but you don't want the red on your model to be that obvious. Yes, okay, got it. So what I'm going to do, and this is why I love boom stands, we're going to lower the boom, as you can see here. There we go. So lower the boom. Let me see how far. I think this is far enough. And now, because Giotto uses a pistol grip, I can now actually just maneuver my strobe like this. And this is going to be the weirdest setup you ever saw. But it works like a charm. Now, what you have to make sure is that you just take the picture like you would normally do. And let me first do it without any extra effects. Or a little bit, as you can see here. So I'm aiming my my camera all the way over that light. If I do it like this, I'm actually here. But also, due to the omnidirectional dome, I already get a lot of lens flare on my camera. So imagine, and I'm going to lower the output a lot. So let's go for 1/16. Or 1/8, I think that's better. So I'm going to make sure that I see my dome, and then I take it out. And I end up with something like this. Now the whole bottom part of that image will be red. And now my client goes like, yeah, Frank, I really like it, but you take away so much of the model. I don't see the boots anymore, but I like the effect. Okay, so you don't want any light hitting your model, you like the effect. And then I start to think, you know what? Those sides are black, right? And I do that to make sure that we don't have to use Photoshop later on. So in other words, we make sure that there's a natural vignette. When you look at the red, it already takes that vignette away a little bit. So what will happen if I take that strobe, and I'm not going to do it under my lens, but I'm actually going to place it here, next to my lens, so on the side. Let's see what happens now. Now let's move a little bit further back. Let's move it a little bit here. As you can see, it's a little bit figuring out where you want that light to come from. There we go. You see it barely on the side. Now if my client goes like, oh, I really like that. Okay, no problem. Okay, you like that? Let me turn it all the way up so you can see what we're doing. Most of the time my client will now goes like, oh, no. This is too much. Okay, got it. Too much. Let's go down. Let's go to a fourth. There we go. And as you can see, when I move my camera around, I can find the sweet spot, what I like. So for example, if I want a little bit more, I'll probably go here. If I want a little bit less, I will go a little bit more in the front. If I want a whole lot, probably go somewhere like here. If I want it totally over the top, I will go like for this. A little bit less, just aim the camera up a little bit. Move the camera more forward. Move the camera just a little bit more back. Maybe you like this more. You see how subtle? Just changing my position just slightly totally changes the look of the image. From nothing to totally over the top. And I can't tell you how powerful that technique is. But let's do something else with this. Let's say that you really like that backdrop, but yeah, you need something on it, right? You want something like a little bit of an effect on there. Okay, cool. Let's switch this one off and let's do something else. Let's take a snoot. And I want to show you something that's really cool about our snoot. Now, of course, we're also going to make a little bit of advertising for our own products. But there's a reason we use our own products. Because we love our own products. Now, I went on AliExpress and I literally bought the smallest snoot I could find. And that's this one. This is really small, to be honest. If I compare it to an Hensel snoot or a Bowen snoot, this is literally a baby version. The only problem is, if I'm a wedding photographer and I want to do this in my pocket, it doesn't look nice, right, on a wedding? If you, no. So we don't want to bring this. But on a wedding, I do want to make sure that I can make my model jump out, and I do need a snoot. This is our snoot. Let me focus on that one for now. So, a snoot aims the light, but it doesn't always aim the light the same way. So sometimes you need light to go wider, sometimes you need light to go more narrow. Look at this. So we have our snoot, setting 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, here is actually a gel holder. And if you use a rectangular strobe, you place a little diffusion panel in here that takes away one stop of light, and then you have this beautiful round circular effect on your backdrop. Nice, right? But if you have a rectangular strobe and you take it off, you actually get a nice rectangular effect on your backdrop. So that means that those 4 settings actually become 8. And when you're really, really creative, you can also use effects like this on the backdrop by just angling the snoot. It gives you a really weird look. But for now, let's just do it like this. I have the diffusion panel in. So we're going to take the diffusion panel out and we're going to switch that over for a red gel. No, just leave it in, why not? And also do the red gel. Where is my red gel? Or let's do the blue gel on those.
Okay, here's the blue gel.
The blue gel. Okay, I think blue also looks nice. There we go. Click it together. Okay, and you can now stand one step forward. Perfect. We're going to take our light, and what we're now going to do is actually the light on the backdrop will be a lot less prominent. So we're going to use this one, and I think we're going to make it more creative. Let's do it from the bottom up. I think that's way more nice because you normally never see that. Let me see, this is my channel C. I think this will be nice. Okay. First, turn channel C off to make sure that I have my lighting correct. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Oh, love this. Channel C on. because we can also create separation by using the back. I still have 2 lights. Let me see, did it fire? Yep, okay. Need a lot more light on the back, so we're gonna aim that up. Of course, I'm using 2 gels together now, so one for getting it nice and round and one for lighting effects. Okay, as you can see now, the blue starts to appear behind my model, but stay. I need a little bit more, and when I'm shooting from a lower angle, I'm actually using my light wrong, so I have to do it more like this. And let's make it a little bit wider. There we go. So I want that beam to go up. And as you can see in the image, it's too low, because I'm shooting from a lower angle. There we go. I really like this. Very subtle on the back. Nice. Look towards the light source if you want. Wow. And of course, you can also do that from here. Okay, move a little bit that way. Perfect. Nice. And if you want the backdrop to be brighter, I don't have any more light left. Oh my. So let's go for ISO 400 in this case. And that would mean that I would be shooting on, well, 4.5. Let's go up. 6.3, 7.1, 8, 9. We'll be shooting on f9. I think. There we go. But it also means that if I lower my main light source, so let's go for B, and let's take out 2 stops. There we go. Now I can shoot on, yes, f5. And look at what it does for the backdrop. Now I get way more of that blue in. And the front is really nice and dark and getting some really contrast here. Look towards the light source if you want. That's the one. Cool. Now if you want that light to be spreading out a little bit more, and I totally get that, move it a little bit further away, or, and I'm going to do that the easy way, just move the snoot in. There we go. I think it's a little bit too dark on her face, so let's just open up just a little bit. Oh, I see what's going on. I had to shoot on f4. Excuse me, my mistake. There we go. Nice. And in Photoshop you can easily just add some sides. That's no problem at all anymore. But now when I look at my model and I see how she poses, I go like, ooh, I really like that dark look. But every time when she poses that way, it's too dark, right? It's not what I want. So why not take the grid out of the flash bender, you might say. No, that's not so easy. But why not use the flash bender bare? Now you might say like, okay Frank, a flash bender bare that spreads the light out like crazy, that's why I use the grid. Yes, but the flash bender can be bent. So why not bend the light exactly the way that I want? So let's fall it off down, and let's make sure that the top one is aimed directly at our model. So what I'm doing now is I'm creating a little bit like this. So the top is immediately drawn towards the model, but the bottom part, where it would normally be directed to the model, is now directed downwards. So I might need to adjust my lighting. Let's see, let's take out a full stop. And the idea is to get a little bit more light on our model. Okay, didn't need to take out a full stop. So let's go back up again. Ooh, it's way too bright. That's why we love light meters. There we go. Nice. So now I have a little bit more light on my model. Now what I can do, that I've established this, is aim the light a little bit more, like here. And now she can do those really nice, aggressive poses. And I can have light in her eyes. There we go. Look at those. That's what I love. Nice. Let's see if we can get a little bit of those. The boots are a little bit difficult now because we're shooting with that blue light in the back, and I don't want to do too much Photoshop. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on the close-ups. And with this, it's very important that you move to the back. You want to zoom in, because it's not the widest backdrop, but when you zoom in, as you can see, the clicky works like a charm. And I'm still shooting in landscape mode. Imagine this. Chin up just a little bit. So as soon as you start shooting portrait mode, there's no problem at all anymore. The backdrop is more than enough in width. Okay, cool. You did have a third set, or? Very quickly, only portrait. Only portrait. Okay, so let me move the clicky away. And let's do one more portrait, because I think we have something really cool to show you guys.
Can you say something about the floor?
What do you want to know about the floor, Anouk?
Can I switch over to the camera?
Yeah, sure. Oh, you want to show me? Okay, yes, I know what you want.
So you can show the floor from click.
Okay, normally we of course have our backdrops. And this is the clicky, by the way. Let me walk around that, Anouk. Can you please assist me so I know that I'm doing right? Because you didn't change the camera live yet. Okay, so this is our clicky. And the thing in the back, and I hope Anouk has to guide me because I don't see what I'm filming. But you can see on the top there, it's only a very simple connector. Okay, this doesn't work. It's only a simple connector, and then you can use one stand. The other thing is, if you look at our backdrops, we of course have a lot of those Pro Fabrics over here, but we also have floor parts. And the floor parts, I have to tell you something about it, but I will do that behind the computer. That's a little bit easier. So let me walk back. Yeah, okay, so we also have this. This is from the do-it-yourself store, and we also have that over here from before we did click backdrops. And I want to tell you a little bit. Oh, and by the way, you can also now see the setup for digital classroom, so maybe you think that's also nice to see. So you can see our whole studio and our intern. Okay, so let's go back to my computer and I will explain something about the floor parts. Yeah. Okay, let me switch to my camera there we go. Let me see if there's any questions. Okay, awesome. Okay, by the way, there is an option now to tip us, we found out last Digital Classroom. So if you think, hey Frank, you really do a great job with Digital Classroom, you can now, in YouTube, you can actually donate money. Ooh. We don't expect it. We would rather have you do the 5-day deal via us or, for example, buy a tutorial. But if you want, during Digital Classroom, you can always do that. Now, the floor parts, this is an interesting part. The first time I got floors from click backdrops, I was going like, ooh, they're really thin. They're like the final material that we put on the walls, and those are really sturdy. But to put it on the floor with a model with high heels, I was a little bit skeptic about it. And what I showed you, we also have that vinyl from the do-it-yourself store, and that's really thick. And we always thought like, hey, that stuff is great, right? It isn't, because the moment we connect it to a model with high heels, you will find that it leaves little dents, especially when you have carpet underneath. That's the problem. If you have hard wooden floors under it, no problem at all. Not with click backdrops and also not with vinyl from the do-it-yourself store. The prints are a little bit boring, but hey, click backdrops is also great and they have a lot more prints to choose from. So I would always go for those. But if you think it's the thickness, that's actually where I went wrong too. Because we mounted also on, how do you call it? Carpeting, no. What covers your floor? Oh my, it's such a simple, no. You have hardwood floors and you have,
Wooden floors?
no, no, Annewiek. Hou nou eens op. Vloerbedekking. Carpet, hey, there we go. It's a simple word, I said. So very simple word, carpet. So when we put it on carpet, we found out that when we used our own vinyl, it took 3 or 4 days for those little dents to go away. With the click backdrops, it was actually the moment the model walked off, it took about 10 minutes and it was already totally flat. We now have them both in our studio for about a year. and they are both undamaged. But the ones we use on the carpet, the more thicker ones, we actually had to throw out one away because it was literally damaged beyond repair, and the click backdrops isn't. So don't be fooled by the thickness of the material. It's really something about the material they use, and with the click backdrops, the floor parts are absolutely awesome. Okay, we're gonna build up for another setup, and before that, if you like what we do in our channel, we have something that's even better, and that's called Patreon. I want to tell you a little bit about that in this video. Hey guys, and welcome to our studio in Emerald. My name is Frank Dorhoff, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that we get a lot of questions about. Hey Frank, how do you like this image? Hey Frank, what can I improve in this image? And of course, I love to help you guys out. But online, I mostly am limited to just saying, hey, I really like it, or continue like this, or change this. I can only do short images because, let's be honest, we get so many questions. So that's what actually got us thinking. And we started a Patreon. Now, what is a Patreon? Well, let me put it this way. Do you want an extensive photo critique every month? Do you want the bed phone, where you can directly contact me with any questions you have? Do you want to be a member of a group that's closed off on Facebook that have the same interest as you guys? That isn't about putting people down, but it's actually about helping people progress in their photography and retouching. Well, that's our Patreon. Now, by joining our Patreon, every month you can deliver 1 or 2 images. We're not that strict about it. And I will do a whole video. In that video, I will show you how I would do the retouching, what I would change about the shot, and I give you a whole lot of tips. That video is put online on a closed-off website. And it means that only the guys from Patreon can see that video and help you out. So I help you out, and the whole community helps you out. It's just an awesome way to learn. So, if you like what we do, of course, the first thing you can do is subscribe to our channels, leave comments, and smash that like button because we really like it, and tell other people about it. But if you want to do a little bit more and help us out creating the awesome programs you enjoy, like Behind the Closed Doors, Digital Classroom, quite frankly, our upcoming podcast, Beyond Photography with the Dorhoffs, and a lot more, then please join our Patreon. I already know you're absolutely gonna love it. So head on over to the link below and start joining our awesome group on Patreon and get a lot of benefits. Thank you so very much for supporting our work. See you online. Okay, Patreon, without any doubt, make sure you join it. It's absolutely awesome. It's, I think, one of the things that really gives you that extra attention, and that's really nice because you talk with other people about your work. We have some guys in there that really progressed in about a year's time, going from okay shots to absolutely breathtaking. We have somebody in there that does a lot with cosplay shots, and every month I review an image of her, and that's about a 20-minute video where you can see what we do in Photoshop, recently even including artificial intelligence. So it's really nice, and it starts at $1 a month. If you just want to watch and just want to participate in the conversations and just get all your info out there and all the discounts, then it's $1 a month. If you also want me to do your review, and that's 100% personalized, so only for you. Of course, we share it in the group, but it's really just aimed at your image. That's, I believe, about 10 euros a month. So yeah, even cheaper than Netflix, come on. And you learn a lot. And you support our work, of course. Okay, so I said to Nadine, one more. And one more normally means like one more. But it never is, right? Because we love what we do. We love it with passion. And the thing is, why one more? When you are in a location and sometimes it doesn't really work out the way that you want, the lighting isn't right, the backdrop isn't right, it's very important to not show that to your client. Make sure that you always emit this trust, this rock solid conviction that every image that you will shoot will turn out great. Your client will be happy. And the thing is, if you project that the right way, your client will never actually find out that you don't know what you're doing, as long as the images look right, right? So if you are the greatest photographer in the world and you come in a location and you start doing this, like, I don't know, this is really different from what I had thought it would be. Oh my, how should I do this? It doesn't really project, and then you create killer images, but your client will look at those images and go like, yeah, they look great, but something must be wrong because he's so in doubt. Or if you come in, okay, the light isn't as expected, but let's make something out of it. And well, the first images that will come in will look like crap, but after that, we'll start shooting. And then you shoot your first image. And of course, because you're confident, because you know what you're doing, that first image already blows his mind. So he will go like, wow, I really like that. And you go like, oh, we didn't even start it yet. Right or wrong? No, wrong. Because if you shoot that first image and it's great, it could be that you trigger something in that client. Maybe an expression, maybe how he sees his product, maybe how he sees the backdrop, and it triggers something. And it shouldn't always be the lighting. It can be really, really small. So what I normally ask my clients is like, yeah, well, I like the shot too, but what do you like about it? What is the first thing that drops into your mind? And maybe, in my opinion, it's look at that beautiful backdrop and that accent lighting. But remember, the client isn't a photographer. So the client will look at, oh, I love her expression. I don't like that accent light over there. I don't like the light on the backdrop, but that expression is awesome. As a photographer, your response should be, yeah, we're just experimenting some stuff. Let's change it. And that way you build up. But if you start going, oh, look at this, and in the future it will be even better. Your client looks at the expression and you're looking at the backdrop, the accent lighting. And now if you nail that expression right the second time, maybe he will look at that lighting differently because you change certain things in that lighting, give it a little bit more contrast, a little bit more atmosphere, maybe add some lens flares and build it from there. But always first find out what does your client like about the image, because we look at it totally different from other guys. I think the best comparison is music. I recently discovered a guitar player from Australia, I believe it is, called Pliny. Now, if you never heard about Pliny, find him on Spotify. It's absolutely amazing. I think it's one of the most, yeah, how do you call it? Most innovative, you know what I mean, right? Most progressive guitar players around. Even Steve Vai says this is the future of progressive guitar playing. And when I listen to that music, and Anouk listens to the music, we both love it for a different way. Anouk loves the melodies. Like, oh, this is so nice, love the melodies, how it floats over. When I listen to it, I love the melodies, but I love everything that goes beneath it, like the polyrhythms, everything that's not 100% 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. And Anouk doesn't listen to that. So if I would be directing a song for her and she would go like, oh, I love this, and I was just focusing on the polyrhythms and not on the melody, I would create something that has more polyrhythms, that is more, and then we would go like, yeah, I don't like this at all. And at that point, you are not closer to your client, you're even further away from your client. So always when your client says, I love this picture, yeah, me too. What is the first thing that you like about this picture? I love the mood. Now you know you're getting somewhere. I love the expression. Okay, do you like the lighting? No, not really. Okay, we're still experimenting with that. Let's go. What do you like? Do you like the accent lighting over there? Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit too small. Okay, let's change it. And remember, you're the photographer. You're not the artist. You're getting paid. If the client tells you he likes flat lighting and you like hard lighting, you use flat lighting. And maybe you move it a little bit to the side to make it a little bit yours. Okay, so we're ready for the final set. Let's do something fast and furious. I'm listening.
Give them another hint.
No, I don't give him another hint. No, don't give him any other hints, Anouk. Because I'm giving a 50% discount on my tutorials if they know who I'm talking about. I'm listening. So, yeah. It's an oldie. And that's enough tips, I think. Okay. So, my always go-to setup for a quick portrait. And when I talk about quick, I mean about when somebody really confronts me like, Frank, I need something and I need it now. And I don't know what my client likes. I don't know if they like hard contrast. I don't know if they like soft contrast. I have got no clue. What I will always do is what I know what will work. And what I know what will work is always a little bit of overlap on the shot. So I'm using a smaller softbox. I'm going to take that one out. There we go. Now I'm going to use this backdrop because it's a quick one. But we're going to use a slightly bigger softbox. Now I am breaking my own rule a little bit. I could do it with the smaller softbox and take the grid out. But I just think it's more fun to also show the bigger softbox. With the grid.
Is this not even the biggest?
No, this is not the biggest. No, I don't need to prove mine is bigger. No. This is a nice one. This is the E36, and we also, yes, this is nice. It's even bigger than me sometimes. No, not. This is the 43? No, 48, X48. And the thing is, they all fold up really, really flat, and you can just take the speed ring off. Now look at this. This is so cool. So you just take it off. And now you take the speed ring off, and with the grid attached, you can just press that in. You can lay it on the floor and just fold it up really nice and small. And then on location, you just press the speed ring in again. Let me see, it's a live broadcast, so I think it's gonna go wrong, of course. With the bigger ones, I highly recommend to really tighten the screws. With the smaller ones, I never do. And maybe just open it up on the sides, because this is, hello Chewy. See, the bigger ones I can't do without touching the floor. You just click them in, and there you go. And the smaller ones you don't even place on the floor, you just do it. Oh, that worked. Awesome. Okay, so the idea is to create with one light source, light on my model and light on the backdrop. Sometimes I call this the umbrella technique. And it's because it mimics a little bit what you do with an umbrella. You need a boom stand for it. You go approximately to here till you reach the model. I'm about 30 centimeters away from the model, and the model is about 40 centimeters away from the backdrop. It doesn't really matter, but it is nice to have a little bit of a reference. Let's put it on. Okay. Let's move that away then. Okay. Okay, there we go. Ooh, made a really weird noise. Okay, let me just turn it on. Let me go to manual mode. Okay, awesome. Okay, let's go up. There we go. And now the thing is, I want my model to be covered by that light. So I don't want it to be gone everywhere, but I just want it to be focused. And that's why we're using that grid. So again, I'm not using a light meter, which I'm already regretting. But I don't want to take the remote control off every time. And normally with workshops, we use a different system where we can just trigger the strobes easily. But I like to do it like this for the live streams. Okay. Okay, way too bright. Oh, let's go for 5.6. That's better. And as you can see here, you get this really nice wraparound effect on your model. Hardly any shadows, because we're standing literally in front of it. And because the light is coming from the top down, the shadow looks absolutely nice. And because he's also 40 centimeters away from the backdrop, it almost disappears in the back because the light is so close. And I just love this look. And it's a quick setup. It always works on trade shows. It always works on client assignments. I think it's one of the best setups ever. As long as the model looks a little bit up, there's no problem at all. And of course, because the light is slightly from the side, you can make the model turn just a little bit. There we go. And of course, it creates beautiful portraits. Look at this. Wow. Chin up just a little bit. And if you want it really flat, you can just move your light a little bit here, as long as you keep the distance the same, and just shoot under exactly the same angle as your light. And you get this beautiful butterfly. Ooh, that's nice. Look straight at me. Chin up just a little bit. There we go, chin up even more. Nice. Okay, final one. Oh, love it. Great shots. Thank you so very much, Nadine. You're done. Thank you. Okay, let's go back. Okay, let's go back to here. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. If you have any questions, just leave them in the chat, no problem at all. That's why we're here. Justin is online. Absolutely love the Patreon. Have grown so much since joining. I highly recommend joining. Yes, Justin, you are actually the one I was talking about. Like, I remember your first images, they were great, but there were all these little things that you could improve. And sometimes I feel bad about pointing out those little things, you know, because people create great shots. And then who am I to pick point like, hey, if you would done that. And I think that's where Patreon really shines. People pay for it, so they are committed. And that's the part where you can be a little bit more direct with your comments and go like, hey, I love it, but the only problem is sometimes when you point something out, people can't look at their own images anymore. That happened to me when somebody pointed out, like, I know trees are growing out of somebody's head, right? That's wrong. But somebody pointed out at me, like, when I started doing those custom backdrops in our studio, he pointed out, like, do you know that some patterns in your backdrops actually grows out of your models? And I was going like, no. Then I looked at the shots and I was going like, oh my God, he's right. And I just couldn't unsee it anymore. And I couldn't get myself to use that backdrop anymore. I was just going like, why didn't I see this before? I have like 100 shots of that. And it's terrible. So when we moved to our new studio, the first thing I said to the painters, don't want any patterns anymore. I just want blobs. Because if you have blobs, you don't have patterns, you don't have anything that's sharp that's growing out of your model. Now when we started using click backdrops, of course, we do have prints, like for example, well, we all know that one, the blue one with like the castle wall. I use that one a lot. And at that point, that's where it really starts to happen. You have to be careful where you place your model. With backdrops like that, there's always something going out of somebody's ear or going out of the side of her head or in the top. So I think placing your model very carefully, but most of all thinking about your cropping in Photoshop makes it so much easier. And that's the same thing when on location. We had it recently, a few years ago in London, where I did a workshop. We had this beautiful setup, and I wanted some extra accent lighting. But however I placed it, I always had the strobe in the frame and not by a small part. Like, I wanted to shoot the whole area. I had my model on a rocking horse, I believe, a big rocking horse. And I didn't want to, I just thought like it would be great if you see the whole area, but I want light from the back. And whatever you do, you see the strobe. At a moment like that, and at that time, content-aware fill wasn't anywhere near it was now. Like in the last 4 years, it's been exploded into something that's way nicer. If you have to place your strobe in the frame in a shot, make sure you place it somewhere where you can easily clone it out. And that's the same thing with the backdrop. And that's the same thing we talked about when we started Digital Classroom, about surprises. The more you know about your theory, it doesn't mean that you have to practice that theory. It means that in the back of your mind, you start to recognize stuff. So when I see an image of, for example, Justin, and I see something is growing out of the model's hair, I know that probably he doesn't see it. He does see a tree growing out of her hair, but he doesn't see the little branch. And sometimes it looks great, sometimes it doesn't. And this is something that even I constantly find out images where I go like, hey, I didn't see that on set. So it happens all the time. But if somebody points it out to you, like for example in Patreon, I think it works better than online, because online you get a lot of responses from other people, and then you see people going like, hey, didn't you see that one? And I don't like that. But Patreon is a nice closed-off group. It's a group with, well, similar-minded people. So if somebody says like, hey, you messed up there, it's actually very positive. So let me see. I don't think you should ever feel bad. I've become a better photographer as a result of your help. I've appreciated everything you and the group have done for me. Well, Justin, we appreciate you being there. Okay, I think if there are no more questions, that will actually conclude our digital classroom a little bit earlier than normal. I do want to give a little bit of attention to Calibrite. I didn't use that now, but I do want to show you something, but because we shot it before the workshop, and it's actually essential that you shoot this. They have a new version out, and I believe that's this one. Yeah, no, this is the photography version. Annelie, can you also get me the other one? So we have one with a red cord, And this is what they call the new photography version. And I love this one because now we actually have 2 real white balance cards. And of course, on this part, we of course have our color checker. Now this is the old version, the new version of the old version. And you can recognize that with a red cord. The new one, if you are more into video and photography like we do, you get the blue one. And this is the Duo. And this one I really love. One, they have a fluorescent sticker. Yes, finally. I've asked them that for 10 years because I always lose the bloody things in a dark studio. And now they have stickers that emit light, unless of course. So you need 2 stickers. Calibrite, I need 2 stickers. And now we have photography, white balance. And then when you turn it around, here comes the fun part, video and video. So that's really nice. Now you have 2 color checkers in one. So when you're on location, you only need 1. And I think that's really nice because now you make sure that your colors are correct. Now somebody will ask me like, hey, how does a color checker work? Can't I just use something like this, the remote control from my LED lighting, because it also has colors, right? I don't even know how to answer that one. Listen, every color has 3 coordinates, an X and Y and a Y. We talked about this before and many times. Now, when you look at that color checker, the color checker, all those coordinates are known. So in other words, if I look at, for example, this one, that one, and that one, and this is the video part, there is software that exactly knows the coordinates for those squares. So let's say you have 25 squares. I believe there are more on there, but let's say 25. It knows from all those 25 coordinates exactly where they should be for perfect red, perfect green, perfect blue in your Miranda color space for Lightroom, for example, or Capture One, depending on what you use. The software makes sure that you get a little profile called a DNG profile or an ICC profile that connects those coordinates exactly to each other. So for example, if your red is 1, 1, 1 and it should be 1.511, it will give you a correction of 0.500. And this is very, very dumbed down. But that's what a color checker does. And that means that if you shoot, for example, with 2 different cameras, 2 different photographers, and you shoot an event, and you make sure that you shoot a color checker in every single lighting setup, so for example, inside the church by a wedding, outside, and for example, at night, you make sure that you shoot both cameras with a color checker. Later on, you create 2 profiles. You sync that profile to all shot with camera A. You sync the other profile to everything shot with camera B. You connect everything together, and now you have images that look the same, and from there on you can start editing. And you have something that looks like it was shot with 1 camera. Okay, Ineke and Fred are online. Hey, awesome to see you guys. No internet there, so I wonder how they see me. Hi. Talking about being abroad, by the way, and this is something that we are planning at the moment. So if you are interested, this will blow your mind. Next year, we will, if we can arrange everything, we will go to Spain for a full week. VIP arrangements can be made, and of course, normal arrangement. The normal arrangement is actually 2-day workshop, and I believe 1 day to a market, right?
No, the normal guests are a 2-day workshop, and the VIPs get to go to the market.
And Hollywood.
And Spanish Hollywood,
oh, yeah.
where they filmed some movies.
So the normal package is just a 2-day. It's a weekend. So 2-day workshop with a model in April in Spain. So it will be a 2-day workshop in the studio and location. And trust me, knowing me, I won't be a lot in the studio. I will be more around the area because it's beautiful over there. So that's the normal package. The VIP package, that's something we do for the first time ever. So we always had our ultimate weekends. This is something completely different. What we're going to do now is 2 days workshop in the studio and of course on location, that's the same. But we're also going to go to a local market for street and travel photography. And we're going to go to the Spanish Hollywood where they actually filmed movies. So we're just going to walk around, take some images, and it's going to be cool. The nice thing about that group is that we are also doing portfolio reviews at night. So it's not like a portfolio review night. It's more like we all come together, we sit, we eat, we dine, we have fun, and we talk about photography. And if you're interested in it, during the market day, I will probably also be shooting stuff with my iPhone. So not with normal cameras, but with iPhones, just to show you guys what the difference can be. So if you're in for a full weekend of Frank, then book the normal package. If you think you can handle a full week of Frank and a week, then just go for the VIP package. We have information on our website at the moment, I
No,
believe.
not
Oh,
yet.
not yet. So if you're interested, just drop us an email. And I believe the price is including stay, catering. Let me put it this way. The whole week, excluding the flight and a car, is, I believe, 1,750 euros, including VAT. So for 1,750 euros, you have a full week, 2-day workshop, the Spanish Hollywood, the market, every night portfolio reviews and just having fun with each other and a lot more. The only thing you have to take care of is that you arrive in Spain and that you get on the location. Everything from there on is arranged by us.
You can share a car.
Yeah, you can share a car. I think if we have a lot of people and we know when they fly in, we probably just meet up at the airport and just make sure that there are a lot of cars that we can just travel together, because I believe it's a 2-hour drive from the airport, right?
Well, there are 2 airports close by, but one is 2 hours.
Yeah,
the
so
other
probably
one
if we
is-
just arrange that a little bit, we can probably make sure that...
Let us know if you're
Yeah,
interested.
just let us know if you're interested, and we will work out the logistics after that. Okay, so Ineke and Fred are on a mobile little bundle, so we're going to switch off the digital classroom for them now. Bye. Are you still there?
The
Cool.
next digital
So they're
classroom,
gone. The next digital classroom is
November 8th.
November 8th.
And it's about modifiers.
It's about modifiers. Oh, that's a nice one. I'm going to show you all the different modifiers and what they do with lighting. So in other words, what does a strip light do? What does a beauty dish do? How do you use a snoot? How do you use omnidirectional lighting? It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of modifiers, so we're going to make sure that there's a lot of strobes there. And maybe we're even going to throw in some reflection. How about that? Okay, so see you again next time. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. We love that you guys share our channel with other people so we can grow. And of course, hit that like and subscribe notification. And think about the 5-day deal. I will show you that one more time. And then we will leave the link in the comments below. And just watch our social media this weekend, because again, we really appreciate it when you order the 5-day deal via us. That really helps us a lot.
30 hours.
It starts in 30 hours, and let me see why I don't have any. I think my camera just froze. Okay, we still have audio, but my camera just froze. So I don't know why that happens. That's weird. Okay, anyway, so let me pick up my phone then, and let's just do it the easy way. Again, I don't know what's going on here, but hey, that's the main thing of having also a phone. Guys, I thank you so very much for watching Digital Classroom with us, and I see